Good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get ready. Good morning and welcome to the Kent County Board of Commissioners Finance Committee meeting. We're going to call the meeting to order and we'll start with public comment if there is anyone from the public who wishes to comment. Good morning.
Grand Rising. How y'all doing? I'm D. Jones, passionate entrepreneur and visionary. As you guys know, I helped bring the largest regional finals in the entire United States of America. That's out of all 50 states. I brought the largest regional finals here. And I actually have the hard data for you guys. So we end up bringing 400 plus students and people and staff here. Out of the 30,000 plus people that were at Comic-Con, 4,000 plus people engaged directly with the event that we brought. We brought actually 41,000 plus in direct economic impact. That's just from the teams just buying food and actually booking hotels. That's not the additional expensive parking and all of the other things. All of the programs that were there actually help justify their esports program at the DeVos Place. They're actually going to use the event that we held at the regional finals, 3 days at the DeVos Place, the largest regional finals in the entire United States. They're actually going to use that to speak to their school boards and administrative staff to actually get additional funding. There were 39 schools there. This is just at 50% capacity. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it there. I want to thank Legends Global. I hope y'all give us bigger than 2,500 because this was a 501c, a nonprofit that had to fundraise. I fundraised over 7,000. Half of the bill to bring the largest regional finals in the entire United States of America, then biggest regional finals in the entire United States of America here. I had a real economic impact on the city, the county, the state. I brought schools and high schools all across the United States here. And I want you guys to know that I'm never going to stop giving up on this vision. I had the vision for this since 2018. I never gave up on this. I've been nothing but genuine, consistent with every single person around here. Every single human being, I've been nothing but consistent. And I gave that info to Doug because me and him was the first two people. A lot of people got to experience GR, rural communities, like underserved communities, poor communities. They all got to experience it, but now they get to enrich their community, their school district because of the things that I've done here, things that I continuously advocated. So you guys have this competitive grant that you guys are going to get from the Department of Labor, and as you guys want to continuously lead ethically and equitably, because I'm going to continuously lead and equitably. Nobody did this. No politician, nobody has a seat of position of power did this, but D. Jones did. But if you guys help us fund this next year, if you guys give us some funding, the county, Ben, I look to speak to you as you said we can speak, and Al, as I look to speak to you, give you guys this info so you can see it yourself, that this technical thing that we did is it's going to bring substantial, larger than 7 figures, larger than 8 figures in the future, if you guys support this, and that would just at 50% capacity. Thank you. I'm going to just leave my time off.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Oh, good morning.
Good morning. My name's Janet Zahn. I am one of the co-chairs of the Grand Rapids Climate Coalition, and I'm here this morning to talk about sustainability. And I want to acknowledge the PACE program that is set to be established in Kent County. I think it is a great way to provide incentive and support for energy efficiency, which is going to be very important as we go forward. We know that there are many factors causing energy costs to increase greatly. Renewable energy is becoming quickly the most cost-effective way to power our homes, our cars, our businesses. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that it is a good thing to have that on your agenda. I hope it is a great, successful program. I also would like to speak to something that's not on the agenda, but that I think is another good step forward, and that is the pilot drop-off composting program that is getting started. I hope that that is something that will establish and grow to be a county-wide pickup program, because drop-off is going to be good for the people who are really gung-ho, someone like me who says, yeah, composting is awesome and I'll do it however. But eventually it needs to be convenient for people. So hopefully this will be something that leads to a regular household pickup part of the waste management that we are working to continue to just avoid having to have another landfill, and obviously keeping the organic matter out of landfills is one of the ways that we reduce the amount of content that goes in. The third thing that I would say is I would love to see Kent County establish some kind of a sustainability statement or intent goals, some basic goals that will help us to frame out policy development moving forward. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to comment this morning? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to item number 3 from our agenda, the consent agenda. Is there a motion? Moved by Vice Chair McLeod, supported by Commissioner Green. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda this morning? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. That takes us on to item number 4, our special order of business, and we will be hearing this morning from Doug Small with Experience Grand Rapids. Welcome.
I just whispered to her that my assistant warned her that I was not very good at technology, so thankfully she was there. Good morning. Chair Teal, thank you for having me. Commissioners, I appreciate your time. Since this is a finance committee, I plan to stick to the nuts and bolts today to talk about your investment in our organization and, more importantly, what we've returned to Kent County with your confidence in that investment. We will be meeting with our board of directors next week, where we'll present our annual business development plan and our 2026 budget. And after that approval, we will make certain you all get a copy of our business development plan so you understand more of the marketing programs and the sales programs that are going on. To what you're going to see are some wonderful results. I also should mention and thank Administrator Vanderberg for serving on our board of directors, along with Commissioner Hildenbrand. So we look forward to presenting to them and the other board members. So I wanted to start just with not knowing that everybody understands who we are as an organization. They might know us as Experience Grand Rapids, but how is it that we're set up? So we're a 501c6 not-for-profit private corporation. As you can see there, large full-time staff. The 18 part-time staff members are at the Gerald R. Ford International Airport to run the visitor services program. We are governed by a board of directors, which is a cross-section of our community. The majority of those must be by the state law that governs our assessment collection. Majority must be hotel general managers or hotel owners. So we have 13 hotel owners or general managers sitting on our board of directors. We are a membership organization, and we have a wonderful relationship and collaborative agreement with the West Michigan Sports Commission, where we provide them, we work a contract with them to provide them with the majority of their funding, which a portion of that comes from Kent County. So we appreciate that. I'm not sure you know how large we are, but we represent 11,000 hotel rooms in Kent County. It wasn't just a few years ago, it was 8,000. It's grown dramatically in the last 2 to 3 years. So it's great to see, but we've got to keep up with that supply. I mentioned Kent County, but we are an organization with both private and public funding. The majority of the funding comes through our hotel room assessment. So through Public Act 25, Public Act 59, we collect 4% of the room revenue that go through Kent County hotels. That's the private arrangement. We bill them, they pay us, and that's the majority of our budget. Kent County, you folks, the airport, and the city of Grand Rapids do provide funding. Kent County is our second largest funder outside of the assessment. We're going to be well north of $4 million this year, I believe, in that funding. All that money goes into our marketing and sales programs of work. So we again thank you for that funding. What's this all mean? So we continue to have record years in tourism. I've chosen to show you from 2019. We've skipped over those dark couple of years. I think we all felt that and know what happened there. But I think more importantly is the comeback that was made in 2022. So, you know, we were still feeling the effects of the pandemic. We went with a soft marketing approach during those years, and then came out flying in 2022 and created a record year. So we succeeded 2019, which we feel is the first full year after the pandemic. And then it's grown since then. You can see the 2024 numbers. These are rooms sold on the left. That's very important to us because the supply has grown, as I mentioned, dramatically, about 3,500 rooms over a 3-year span in the county. And so we've got to keep up with that. And this room sold shows that we're keeping up with the supply. Kent County room revenue, which is important certainly to the county and us for our for the investment into our organization. Again, you can see the wonderful growth bouncing back in 2022 and then a record years moving forward. I will tell you that at this point in 2025, we are ahead of pace in rooms sold year to date, and we are about 3.3% ahead of revenue projections through the month of October. So hopefully November and December pan out as expected, and we have another record year. This translates into budget growth. This is what allows us to do our job, and that growth you saw on the past slide is a result of having a budget to do that. I've always said we fight well above our weight class. With all due respect to the Lansings and the Kalamazoos that surround us, that's not our competition. Our competition tends to be more of Cincinnati, Milwaukee, even Pittsburgh, and others. So while they're larger, probably, how do I want to say it, a more highlighted brand, if you will, than Grand Rapids, we are able to punch above our weight class and keep up with those that are in our peer set. So a budget is very important to keep up with those organizations and destinations that continue to grow around us. And by the way, while we're adding a bunch of beautiful infrastructure, and I thank you for your support of that, it's our job now to fill them, but so are our competitors. So we must continue to look at other, whether it's infrastructure or other amenities that allow us to grow as a destination so that we continue that competition with our peers. So to bring it to a close, these are some big numbers. These are not Experience Grand Rapids or Doug Small numbers. These are tourism economics numbers. Tourism economics probably does the majority of research in this area for destinations across the country. They're a wonderful organization. So they did a study for us on our 2023 visits, and you could see some huge numbers and 2024, and you could see some huge numbers over 2023. I don't think people realize that it's a billion-dollar industry. So the tourism economy, we feel, is very important to all of us. I always say that everything starts with a visit. If somebody visits here, they might want to work here. If they're going to work here, they're going to want to live here. And if they're going to live here, somebody's going to come and visit them. So it's a circle. It all comes back to a visit. So thank you very much, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, are there any questions this morning? Commissioner Green.
Just kind of waiting for Commissioner Stuck to take the lead there. Per usual. Thanks, Doug. Appreciate the presentation.
You're welcome.
I just had a quick question on the, this is really good information, and I appreciate the overall look. The rooms sold, where do we hover in terms of occupancy versus capacity?
Yeah.
Where does that kind of go?
Yeah, one of the things that you'll see when you see that new inventory come in really, really quickly. There obviously was some pent-up demand, and we might have been losing some rooms to other counties because you saw the rooms continued to build even with that new supply, but it does affect occupancy. So occupancy is below what it was a year ago. That used to be the end-all for hotels. They will tell you now it's their RevPAR, or revenue per available room. I even know a couple of our downtown hotels that are choosing to take rate over occupancy. So they're driving rate. I'm not saying that's good or bad. That's their choice. We don't control that. We haven't had a lot of pushback from that from clients because, quite honestly, I think we're undervalued as a destination. When you look at the hotel quality, we all travel. You look at the hotel quality compared to other cities we compete with and what we charge. It's nothing compared to these other cities. I know because I just came back from a conference and it was crazy expensive. So occupancy is down, but revenue and rooms sold are up.
And down more as a factor of there being more available
Rooms.
rooms,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. And is there still, just a final follow-up, Chair, if there's still, your members would probably say there's still a demand for new inventory, new rooms, or we haven't reached that cap yet?
Yeah, I'm smiling because I had one hotel owner that I had lunch with about a year and a half ago, and I asked him to put his shovel away because he keeps building hotels around the county. But he's a wonderful guy and good at what he does. But we're done with it. From our organization standpoint, a lot of limited service properties came onto the market. And limited service properties, for those that, let's use Holiday Inn Express as an example, limited or no meeting space, that doesn't drive new business. It spreads the business around, right? Everybody wants to try the new shiny object. And we're all for new inventory that's going to create new business opportunity. A large convention hotel, which has been reported in studies is needed, or boutique or very unique style of hotels that might draw somebody from Chicago or Fort Wayne that want to come to Grand Rapids and go, wow, they got this really cool new property. So those are the two needs I think that we still have. We don't have a need for any more limited service properties, but I can't stop that.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Oliver King.
So you probably know who this gentleman is that I'm talking about, but I always think I'm loud. Sorry about that. Thank you. You probably know who this gentleman is once I describe this. So there's a gentleman who has come to our meetings who has asked for a visitor center to be created.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm talking about.
I
Do
do.
we have something like that, or?
We've looked at that. First off, the gentleman, I have a great relationship with him. I hear from him quite often. In fact, when I accepted this job, get ready to move from Denver, I was still working in Denver, and I received my first fax from him about this. So he's tenacious, and that's okay. I like that, right, Dee? We've looked at it over the years. Like your question, I've had other commissioners over the years. A lot of cities do have visitor centers. You know, the old school visitor center where you can grab information and all. Majority of our visitors have not, said that that's what they want. We're in the digital age. Our website's award-winning. Our website also is available through mobile devices such as phones. I've received more than enough compliments of people checking our calendar events, our restaurants, and other things through our website. If I had felt a need for it, I certainly would do it because we're here to drive visitors, and the visitors need that. We're going to do it. We have a small space in our office that has brochures from all over the area. The airport, which we manage, the airport visitor services, has that. Every convention of size that comes here at the convention center, that's our staff there that are working information centers. So we have information centers at the convention center, and sometimes even in the Amway Hotel if it's a self-contained piece. So we feel we've covered that pretty well. I'm not against continuing to look at that, but at this point, we don't see the need for it. Good question, though. Thank you.
Commissioner Steck.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning.
And thank you for all the great work that you guys do
you.
at Experience GR. So you mentioned the shiny new pennies coming in, the amphitheater, the soccer stadium. We currently have sufficient rooms to manage the opening of those and operation of those facilities.
Yes, I will tell you, though, I don't think people realize the convention or the concert business in this town does so well for our hotel community. Not every act, but you'd be surprised at the number of people who come from northern Indiana, northern Ohio here for concerts. I can follow, we get weekly reports of daily occupancy, daily rate of all of our hotels, not just individual hotels. I can't see individual hotels. Where there's a big concert in town, it peaks. And the beauty of that is people say, well, they're all staying downtown. Not necessarily. A lot of people don't want to pay for parking, don't want to pay the prices downtown. But even if they do, that everyday business traveler, that man and woman have to find a hotel room somewhere, so they spread it throughout the county. And during those periods, we see the county really rise up from an occupancy and rate standpoint, because rate demand goes up also. So currently, I think we're in good shape. You know, if we get to a point where we've got a couple large concerts in town and we have a convention in town, which is what we want, right? It's a perfect storm, could be a different story, but I'd love to have to get to that hurdle to get over and
We'd love to solve that problem.
Yeah.
So my second question is, what drives more visitors to this community? Is it the public-private arenas and amphitheaters or conventions?
the leisure business.
The
non-convention business. There's a large, COVID took a toll on corporate transit business. Corporate transit business is that man and woman coming in every day to visit Steelcase or Herman Miller, whoever it is. That took a hit and never fully recovered. That put more pressure on us to drive more leisure business. We've been up to that task so far. These new amenities will help that to drive even more. Convention business is growing very nicely. It wasn't more than 3-4 years ago. We were contracting 130,000 convention room nights for future years. This year, we're probably going to be around 160,000 for future years. The convention business is growing, but we're tapping out. It's tough to find dates for the larger conventions. Thus, when I mentioned that need for another convention hotel still exists and probably won't go away, and that's a good thing. That's because, you know, we've been discovered as a national convention draw. And even more importantly, national conventions are coming for the first time. Look at us and go, you know what, we'll come back in 5 or 6 years because they're well taken care of. It's a good, clean community, wonderful facilities. Let's not forget a great airport. So we're getting there as a national destination. So I think the convention business will continue to grow, but the leisure business, I think, is probably underestimated in our community by folks, that how many people come to town because of our arts, our food and craft beverage scene. I don't mean just craft beers, everything from coffee to distilleries and others. And our outdoor activities or outdoor adventure is just growing and getting better with the trail systems. So those things are driving a lot of leisure traffic, and we see that not slowing down with all the things that are coming down the pipe.
So do you still see the need for expanded convention facility?
I do. That need was first discovered in 2016 by a study that was done by CSL out of Chicago. It was one of 7 things that came out of that study, that we needed a convention hotel. Our customers, our customer advisory board, which we have a customer advisory board where we bring in convention meeting planners from all over the country once a year. And we just sort of spend 2 days of pulling things out of them. What's happening that's great in other cities? What do we need here to get to that next level? They've consistently told us we need another large convention hotel to compete with our peer set. So I don't see, if you talk to our sales team who's on the road every day somewhere selling conventions, that need still is there. I think the CAA is looking at another additional study on the expansion of a convention center, if that's needed. If you build a convention hotel on top of the convention center with the proper amount of meeting space, and when I say proper, more than what would be needed for a traditional 500 or 600 room hotel, that could probably hold off that need for having expansion for a little while and give us an opportunity not just to bring in larger groups, but 2 groups at a time. So now you fill this new hotel with a group because it's got great meeting space. You bring a citywide convention in that fills everybody else. Now we've really maximized our hotel usage.
And to be clear, a convention hotel is not a standard hotel. You're talking about with extensive capacity.
Convention hotel would be like a 4-diamond hotel like Amway or JW. But convention hotels, usually that term is used because of the meeting space. It is a meeting hotel. In fact, we've said to some of the other hotels that were a little hesitant with hearing about, do we bring another hotel in? This is a hotel that can only survive if it caters to the group business. So they won't be siphoning off leisure business and corporate business from others. It's specifically to try to drive convention and meeting business.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vice Chair McLeod.
Thank you, Chair. So I was just gonna ask about the conventions as well, because I wondered, if there was a hotel or convention space that was built outside of downtown, if it would still serve that purpose for, conventions as well as like a downtown space. And I just wondered like what the, you explained a lot of it, but I would just wondered like what the conversations have been with those that might be interested in getting into that space.
Yeah.
Like how far might we be off from something like that, especially since the studies have been saying that we really need a space like that, and with us growing in the capacity that we are, you know, how long can we hold off that? You know, how much business are we turning away, for one? How many conventions are we turning away because we don't have the room and the capacity to be able to manage those large national sort of conferences and things like that? And when do you see us might be being able to get to the place where we might be able to serve that need?
Terrific question. We felt the impact immediately of the Deltaplex not being available. The downside of Deltaplex was it wasn't drawing conventions because of the lack of hotel rooms. Convention planners want as many rooms in as short a distance from their meeting site as they can find. It's never changed in my entire career, and it's still the same. So from a traditional convention standpoint, 9 out of 10 groups, big groups, not all groups, are going to look first inside, and then they'll look outside if it doesn't meet their needs. I will tell you that the average size meeting that comes to Kent County annually is not a 1,200 room group. It's between 350 and 400 room nights. So that means the Sheraton on 28th Street's doing good business, meeting business, and other hotels. So there's a lot of small meetings that take place in this county, a lot more than there are large conventions. I would love to see somebody that would have an idea on another facility outside of downtown. And especially for public shows and other type social and fraternal groups that don't need a convention center and large convention hotel, I think there is a need for that. And since I haven't heard, there was an effort underway to try to get something, I believe, in Alpine Township, and I may be off of my community lines, it might be Walker, Alpine Township, but it was not successful. But I appreciated the try and hope that others continue to look at that.
So, and just following up to that, so it sounds like we need more, we need capacity for like the normal mid-size convention space. It's just always worrying, and when we think about possibly building like a huge convention center that is built for, you know, that 1,200 room need, and we might not get there, but maybe a couple times a year, right? And then the space is sitting empty, and so it's good to kind of get an understanding for the types of conventions that we typically see in this area, so that we can think about that more strategically.
Yeah, we'll do between 15 and 20 large, and I'm talking large, 2,500 room or more conventions. So again, you're using 3 and 4 hotels downtown. We do a lot of, there are a lot of weeks where we'll have 2 groups in town. Convention center's large enough for certain groups that, you know, it can be split based on their meeting room needs. But we're running out of that space too, because again, we're starting to be seen as a national draw for a lot of conventions, especially in the health sciences area. Technology is popping up a lot more on our radar with groups. So it's not going to slow down. So we're going to have to continue, to your question, we're going to have to continue to look for ways to make certain that we can accommodate those groups.
Any other questions? Oh, Commissioner Oliver King.
Thank you. One question I'm curious about, when you look at this, you're also looking at parking, right? So I would imagine, is there a need to develop more parking downtown, and we don't really have valet parking in the downtown area, right?
Hotels, Amway has it,
That's right.
JW has it. The parking situation, we've only run into a couple issues we were able to resolve. A couple very large groups where we worked with shuttle transportation from lots on the west side. And while, you know, we feel like a big city, that's not a real long haul, you know, to jump on a shuttle and come over. So it's very rare that we have to do that. And a lot of times we have to pick up the tab for that if we want the group, because in some cities they don't have to have that. So it has come up, but it doesn't come up frequently. You're welcome.
Commissioner Stack.
For my second, so what are our competitors building that we don't have in order to compete with Grand Rapids?
We just talked about a little bit. First is continue to build bigger hotels with better meeting space. We just took our board to Indianapolis. Indianapolis doing a lot of great things in the sports market, doing a lot of great things in the convention market. USA Today had them as the #1 convention city because of some of the things they're doing. They're in the midst of finishing up an 800-room, new 800-room convention hotel and also an expansion of their convention center. So it's a combination of expansion of convention center and expansion of conventions hotel space. So the things we're looking at are no different than what our competitors are, except in some cases they're ahead of us. Cincinnati, we were kicking them around. I got a good friend that runs that convention bureau, so I could say that and smile, but we were kicking them around. But now they're starting to, conventions are booked 3, 4, 5 years out. So what if we've got a vision of what we're going to be in 3, 4, 5 years out, it helps us start to put business on the books. Cincinnati announced a new convention hotel. They imploded an old one. They're building a new 600-room property, and they're going to start to see the fruits of those labors. So it's those. It sounds simplistic. I serve on the airport board. I think we need to continue to work as hard as we can to try to increase our flights and seat capacity. It's good and a lot better than what we used to have. But again, our competitors, I always say this, our competitors are well branded, right? Most of them that I mentioned have major sports teams. And people say, well, what's that mean? Well, they're on TV all the time. That helps with their branding. They don't have to spend as much money because they're being branded by being seen on television without having to pay a dime. If you took the Packers out of Green Bay, with all due respect to anybody from Green Bay, I mean, they got a couple good breweries, but that shows you, though, everybody knows Green Bay because of the Packers. Everybody knows South Bend because of Notre Dame. So we just got to work harder. We got to keep up with, actually, I don't even like the term keep up. That's wrong. We got to keep ahead of our competitors if we can.
Oh, but that's, I think the point is that they're not stagnant. I mean, they're actively
Including during
pursuing. So if we did nothing, every day we do nothing, we fall further and further behind.
We do, and we've had those discussions, and every time I see another press release from another city of building a new convention hotel or expansion of the convention center, I make sure, I think Mr. Vandenberg will tell you, I make sure that I throw those things out to folks. We're keeping an eye on it.
Commissioner Oliver King.
Thank you. Just one more question. You were mentioning other cities and what they had. You didn't mention Detroit. Is Detroit not a competitor?
It's a given. My apologies.
Okay.
It's a given. When people look at where they're going to host meetings, they first choose a region of the country. Generally, it's not always this way. I mean, if you're a big national, like Realtors Association, National Realtors Association, you go anywhere you want, right? So, but generally they pick a region. Once they pick a region, then they start to look at cities and states. So when Michigan is being identified by a meeting executive, they're looking at, depending on the size of the group, they're looking at Detroit and Grand Rapids. And we've won our share from Detroit. Detroit, you know, I still call it Cobo Hall, I'm sorry, but the convention facility there is a fine convention facility, and they've added on. So it's much, much bigger than us. Their room capacity, quality room availability, not so much. So that's what's allowed us to compete. But there's another one. They're building a JW Marriott right now, a big JW Marriott convention hotel downtown. It's going to be a big shot in the arm for them. So yes, they're definitely a competitor.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it, and I know if anybody has any additional questions, Doug's always available.
Sure, thank
for
you.
those. Thank you. So that will move us on to our agenda items. We'll start with agenda item A from the Health Department, the fiscal year 2026 Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, Office of Global Michigan Refugee Services.
Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to accept and appropriate $206,190 in federal grant funds to the FY 2026 Health Fund budget from the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, Office of Global Michigan Refugee Services Program, contingent upon execution of a contract, and to authorize the board chair or health officer to execute the agreement, approve extensions and amendments, and to authorize the board chair or designee to approve increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. Summary. The Health Department has been awarded $216,190 in funding from LEO, Office of Global Michigan, to support refugee-related services. Of the total award, $10,000 has already been appropriated to the 2026 Health Fund budget. This request is to appropriate the remaining $206,190 to the 2026 Health Fund budget. The Office of Global Michigan and the Health Department have partnered for over 25 years to provide refugee medical screens. Per federal requirements, these medical screenings must be completed by a public health nurse within 90 days of U.S. arrival and cover medical history, health assessments, screenings for communicable diseases, and a mental health screening. Due to the uncertainty regarding the number of planned refugee arrivals for 2026, the Office of Global Michigan is recommending that the funding be used to maintain infrastructure and expertise if Michigan receives refugees during FY 2026 that require a medical screening. During the time when there are no new arrivals, the public health nurse position will provide health education and support services to existing refugees that are currently enrolled in one of the home visiting programs in the Health Department. The grant funds will support a 1.0 FTE public health nurse position, a 0.1 FTE public health program supervisor position, and a 0.1 FTE clerk 2 position with total salary and fringe costs of $155,501. Funds will also support supplies, client assistance, travel software, and indirect costs. The grant period is 10/1/25 through 9/30/26. If funding is eliminated or decreased, the positions will be eliminated unless continuation funding is approved pursuant to the fiscal policy on grants, contracts, and donations.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner Steck, supported by Commissioner Oliver King. Any questions or comments? Vice Chair McLeod.
Thank you, Chair Till. I just had a couple quick questions. So I saw in the action request that if Michigan doesn't receive the refugees that need the 90-day, assessments, that funding would be utilized to support those that are currently already here for education and that sort of thing. And so I just wanted to get a sense of the average, I guess, number of refugees that this funding would support, first thing. And then secondly, what does that look like for those other types of services that are outside of the required assessments that, the refugees in our community would be receiving?
Sure. Our recent experience with refugees has been kind of like riding a roller coaster. We think they're coming, then they're not coming, then some are coming, and then they're not coming either, and it's been lots of ups and downs. At the last official word we have, we're still expecting about 65 refugees in 2026. So 65 refugees would keep one nurse close to full capacity and able to provide some support to some of our other refugees that are already here, but are still adapting to this new country and have lots of needs that they can support with. Our maternal infant health program, which is staffed by nurses and social workers, we have a lot of refugees who are clients of that program, and their needs usually are greater than the needs of a typical a resident of our county. And so it is really great that we have a nurse who's a refugee nurse that our MIHP nurses can call and say, we need a little extra help here. And so then they go, the Office of Global Michigan has allowed us to bill that time to their grant. So without using up all of our Medicaid-approved visits, we're allowed to give some extra support.
And just one follow-up. So this is this position currently on staff, or is this someone that has to be hired to do this work?
It's one of our 4 original nurses who worked in our refugee program. 2 were reassigned to different programs. 1 took a retirement, and this is the last one so she has a long history as a refugee nurse.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Stack.
Thank you, Chair. So Commissioner McLeod asked one of my questions, but we all know that the refugee program has been, you use roller coaster.
Yeah.
Or freeze thaw. But at any rate, it's clear, we talked about this at CHAC as well, that there are plenty of demands for existing refugee services. So this money isn't going to go in the bank and sit idle. We have plenty of demand that will be needed to be funded by this program, regardless whether the numbers are high or low or frozen entirely.
That's true. And at the present staffing level, we're 1/4 of what we used to be. So we're just maintaining kind of that skeleton crew so that we can provide services to any refugees that do come in and those that are already here.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item this morning? Thank you. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. That takes us to item B from the Health Department, fiscal year 2026, Michigan Department of Agricultural and Rural Development, Food Safety in the Home Grant.
Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to accept and appropriate $9,135 in state grant funds to the FY 2026 Health Fund budget for the MDARD Food Safety in the Home Program, contingent upon execution of a contract, and authorize the board chair or health officer to execute the agreement, approve extensions and amendments, and authorize the board chair or designee to approve increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. Summary: the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention estimates that 48 million people suffer from foodborne illnesses annually, and approximately 60% of these cases originate in the home. This grant funding will provide food safety education and materials to consumers to increase knowledge about safe homemade food preparation to reduce the incidence of foodborne illnesses. The Health Department will create an educational presentation focusing on the necessary tools to protect one's health, such as washing hands and surfaces when preparing food, using separate cutting boards, cooking food to a safe temperature, and refrigerating food within 2 hours of cooking. Food safety kits will also be assembled and provided to participants that allow them to practice what they have learned in the training. Some of the items included in these kits are storage bags, thermometers, gloves, reference cards, and a cutting board. The grant funds will support the purchase of items needed to create the food safety kits, along with indirect costs. The grant period is October 21, 25 through September 30, 26. Corporate Counsel will review and approve the contract as to form.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner Sparks, supported by Commissioner Oliver King. Questions or comments? Vice Chair McLeod.
Thank you. Just a quick question. So I can't imagine that the Health Department's not already doing some of this. So I just wondered if this might be an extension of some work that's already being done within the Health Department.
Thank you for the question. Our primary function is with regulated establishments. And so our goal with this one was to reach a population that we traditionally don't reach, and that's the resident in their home. And given the statistics that we just heard about the amount of foodborne illness resulting in home-prepared foods, we feel it's a really important initiative to start and to begin to move into that space in a deeper depth. So that, one of the reasons we designed this grant, and this is the neat thing about this grant, is this actually came from our staff to develop and design this grant and what the community needed, is that when we think about food prepared in the home, is we're trying to do two things. We're actually trying to protect vulnerable populations in the home, but we're also trying to prepare growing children and who end up working in the workforce for restaurants. A lot of times it's their first job. So we wanted to have them prepared for that as well and understand the principles of food safety. So when they did join the workforce, likely in their first job in food service, that they would be prepared for it.
Thank you for that. And just a quick follow-up. So it sounds like there's an education plan that's going to be developed as part of this, and some outreach that includes the food safety kits and things like that. And so is this something that you guys are planning to do? I guess I'm interested to understand what the plan is to get this information out to the community and drive up interest for this.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the next phase of it. So we've had a lot of success working with KDL in being at libraries and in creating access points that way. I think the thing that I would like to see happen, and where I will see our team pushing forward, is to really work with neighborhood associations and to really get into the more deeper depths of our community to make sure everybody has access.
That's great. I'm looking forward to seeing how, to hearing the results of this, at the end of the grant. So thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Stack.
Thank you, Chair. So it's hard to imagine a county of 670,000 people being served by a $9,000 grant on anything. What's the potential? I mean, if we know the need, we know that there are values to be obtained through this kind of program. What's the growth or alternative funding longer term if this really works?
Thank you. That is a great question, because you're right. It doesn't go very far in our county. The goal is to hit 500 families, to access 500 homes, and then to show, actually, to demonstrate as a model to the state that this is a functional program, and this is how you do it, and this is how we do it really well. And so we actually have the support of 2 surrounding counties. We have Ottawa County and Kalamazoo County, who are actually using what we produce here in Kent County to model in their own county without the funding for the kits. So what we want to do is really produce this and become a model for the state to use, and to be able to then go back to the state and say, this was successful, let's fund this. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Okay. Thank you. Okay. See no further questions or comments. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We are on to item C from Fiscal Services, fiscal year 2024 Homeland Security Grant Acceptance.
Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to accept the FY 2024 State Homeland Security Grant from the State of Michigan Department of State Police to appropriate $184,095 to the FY 26 Sheriff Emergency Management Homeland Security budget in the Special Projects Fund, and to authorize the Board Chair or designee to execute the intergovernmental agreement, approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. Summary: the Michigan Department of State Police Emergency Management and Homeland Security Division provides federal pass-through funds for Homeland Security programs. The purpose of the FY24 Homeland Security Grant Program is to prevent, deter, respond to, and recover from incidents of national significance, including but not limited to threats and incidents of terrorism. Starting with the grant year 2006, Homeland Security Grant funding allotments were allocated on a regional basis. Kent County was placed into Region 6, which is part of a 13-county region. The fiduciary for the grant is the West Michigan Regional Medical Consortium. Grant funds will be used to cover the personnel costs of the Homeland Security Planner, as well as for equipment purchases as determined by the local planning team of Kent County. The grant period is September 1, 24 through May 31, 27. Corporate Council will review and approve the intergovernmental grant agreement as to form.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Vice Chair McLeod, supported by Commissioner Oliver King. Questions or comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. That takes us to item D from Fiscal Services, Department of Justice, Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services, fiscal year 2025 Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Grant to support an officer wellness program.
Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to accept a U.S. Department of Justice Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Grant to support an officer wellness program, and to appropriate $200,000 in federal grant funds to the Sheriff FY26 Special Projects Fund for Officer Wellness Program, and to authorize the Board Chair or designee to execute the grant agreement, approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. Summary: the Sheriff's Office wishes to accept a 2-year grant from the DOJ in the amount of $200,000 to support the emotional and psychological well-being of law enforcement personnel and their families within the Kent County Sheriff's Office. Under this program, sheriff deputies will receive training about stress management, trauma awareness, and early signs of mental health challenges such as PTSD, anxiety, and depression. It also offers training for family members to help them understand the unique pressures of police work, improve communication, and build resilience at home. By promoting a culture of wellness, the program reduces stigma around seeking help and encourages proactive self-care. This program will enhance both job performance and personal relationships and ultimately contribute to a healthier, more balanced, and effective law enforcement workforce. The period of performance is October 1 of 25 through September 30 of 27. Corporate Counsel will review and approve all documents as to form prior to signature.
Is there a motion for this item supported by, moved by Commissioner Sparks, supported by Commissioner Stack? Questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Stack.
Thank you, Chair. I applaud this. I mean, obviously, I think that the Sheriff's Department needs to be doing this, and I'm sure they are doing this already. I guess my question is, how does this overlay sort of the built-in systemic work that the department does on an ongoing basis, and then what's the opportunity, because mental health is a constant need. It isn't going to be just a 2-year need. What's the prospect for continuing that funding after that?
So thank you. Good morning, everybody. And so, yeah, I do want to emphasize that this is intended to augment otherwise available programming. So obviously we have health insurance, we have a employees assistance program that's highly utilized in the sheriff's office. We have a peer support team that you've probably heard about in some of our annual presentations. But there's still a national crisis for law enforcement suicide, corrections suicide. There's still a gap that we find specifically in education that we think still needs to be filled. We've developed a steering committee within the sheriff's office to help look at a number of opportunities that might be out there. And that group will kind of direct at least a portion of the money that we spend. But again, this is somewhat of a pilot. This is helping us identify gaps in our programming and then develop a strategy to meet those gaps. So it might be bringing programs that are already existing together, and it might be new programming. But I will put the little circle around. We have no resources available to educate family members. And we think that is a substantial missing link to what we've been able to do in the past. So I think that will likely be a part of it, of what we do, an ongoing program to bring in. We have a lot of young families who are thrust into this environment without a lot of tools to know how to notice that there's something going on, and then help to manage what's going on when their loved one starts to endure some very traumatic situations, and they obviously will.
Well, I certainly would encourage you, once you learn what you can learn in this, build it into the system, because this is an ongoing need.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Vice Chair McLeod.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sheriff. So this is really great, and I know that you do a lot of these things already. So I just wanted to ask a question about the resources for families, right? Because a lot of, we know that nationally that there's just issues with mental health that do spill over to family life, specifically related to like domestic violence, those sorts of things that where you see those stresses kind of playing out. And so I guess I just wonder what sorts of things that in terms of training for families or supports for families you're thinking about with this funding that could be something that could be made, like Commissioner Steck had mentioned, more kind of systemic within the system moving forward, because I know that the young families are struggling with the stresses of this job, and to know that at any moment their family member might not come home, and that I can't imagine how that impacts them. So what are you thinking in types of training for them?
And I don't want to get too far ahead of our steering committee, because they are evaluating a number of opportunities that are out there, but identifying the beginnings of PTSD or helping some very rudimentary tools that a family can use for it would be part of the training. But I do want to emphasize, and you highlighted this point, we do have EAP, and that supports our entire county employee structure, and it's a very effective EAP program. But the struggles of these young families, and I'll give you an example. When you start out the county, you're making it at the bottom of the pay structure. As a law enforcement officer, specifically, your hours are so unpredictable that it makes it very challenging for your spouse to manage the family needs, whether that be daycare or who's going to stop to the grocery store and get the groceries when somebody's home with the young ones. That causes family stress. That makes them more vulnerable to the stress that you pack in your backpack when you come to work, and then makes it more challenging for you to do your job. So something that might be able to kind of unwind some of those issues and get some structure assistance for those families early on as those things start to creep into the marriage, to the home life. Those are all kind of on our agenda, but, you know, those training programs aren't necessarily developed right now, which is why COPS is offering these grants. And I do want to give a shout out to Josh. We put this on his radar a couple years ago, and he was very persistent in looking for these opportunities until one finally popped up that we were eligible for. So I really appreciate his work and want to say how much it means to us that we have that kind of support as part of the county structure.
Commissioner Sparks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is really exciting for me to hear that we're getting on board with this for little more than, I think, a year. We've been working with the City of Grand Rapids Police Department, doing trainings specifically around mental health. So they started with 4, and we ended up doing almost 20 programs with them. So we've got some more slated as well. So we could probably give you a couple of, meet with your steering committee and share some information as to how impactful and successful that has been with us in the programming with the police department. So this is really, really exciting to hear that we're, you know, getting on board. And thank you, Josh, because what the police officers do go through, we don't necessarily see all of those pressures and stresses that they have, especially with their families and trying to juggle their career. And then we enter media and everything else that goes along with that. So thank you for caring enough to look after our sheriff's department.
We'll take you up on meeting with the steering committee.
You got it.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We are on to item E from Parks and Recreation, Michigan Department of Natural Resources, DTE Energy Foundation Tree Planting Grant.
Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to accept and appropriate $4,000 from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, DTE Energy Foundation Tree Planting Grant Program to the FY 2026 General Fund budget, and authorize the Board Chair or Parks and Recreation Director to execute the grant agreement and approve extension and amendments. Summary of request. The Parks and Recreation Department applied for and was awarded the grant from the MDNR DTE Energy Foundation Tree Planting Grant Program. This program is designed to assist local units of government, schools, and nonprofit communities in planting projects to increase the number of properly planted, established, and maintained trees within the service territory of DTE Energy. The grant funds will be utilized to plant 15 native shade and riparian trees at Douglas Walker Park in Byron Township to address both ecological and recreational needs. Along Buck Creek, new plantings will stabilize banks, filter stormwater, reduce water temperatures, and create improved habitat. In recreation areas, strategically placed trees will provide shade for heavily used picnic sites and playgrounds, while also acting as windbreaks and visual buffers from adjacent subdivisions and the Parks Maintenance Building. The $4,000 grant is being matched by existing Parks Department budget of $4,667 of personnel and supplies, as well as the value of anticipated volunteer labor, which is $5,760 from Friends of Buck Creek and Byron Center Schools.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner Oliver King. Is there support? Supported by Vice Chair McLeod. Questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Stack.
Just want to acknowledge my colleague for wearing a green sweater in support of this motion.
Is there any other questions or comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We are on to item F from Parks and Recreation, Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund Grant for Johnson Park.
Action requested. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second. I think I pulled up the wrong one. For Johnson Park. Okay. Yeah, what did I read here? Thank you. All right. Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to accept and appropriate $400,000 from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund Grant Program to the Johnson Park Trailhead Project in the FY 2026 Capital Improvement Program Fund, and to authorize the Board Chair or Parks and Recreation Director to execute the grant agreement and approve extensions and amendments. The Board Chair or designee may also increase the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. Summary. Authorized by the Board of Commissioners, Resolution 03282448, the Parks and Recreation Department applied for and has been awarded an MDNR Trust Fund grant for $400,000 to support the development of Johnson Park. As part of the Grand River Greenway Initiative, the Kent County Parks Department is redeveloping a portion of Johnson Park to serve as the west trailhead for the Kent County section of the project. Phase 1 of the project began in 2024 with the reconfiguration, expansion, and repaving of the existing Johnson Park parking lot. Phase 2 of the project includes demolition and replacement of the existing restroom with a four-season restroom, replacement of the existing playground, new shelter areas to serve the trailhead, and the development of an adaptive mountain bike optimized natural surface trail network. The $400,000 grant is being matched by $600,000 in existing Parks Department funds that were appropriated as part of the Kent County ARPA allocation awarded to the department. The grant and match funds are specifically being used for the restroom, playgrounds, and shelters portion of the project.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner Stack, supported by Commissioner Oliver King. Questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Stack.
Thank you, Chair. Just one quick question for Ben. Where does the Four Seasons bathroom go? Is it back by the pavilion area or up front?
Yeah, so there are actually two restrooms in the park right now, and we are replacing the one back by the open shelter where the parking lot was recently redone.
And that'll be sort of the trailhead start area?
Yep, so it'll be the trailhead for the mountain bike system. We have our no sledding hill there as well. So Johnson Park is aiming to be another one of our four-season parks, so this will kind of help with that.
And I don't sled there, promise.
All right, good deal.
Vice Chair McLeod.
Thank you, Chair. So where is this, so now we've got the grant and the matching funds. So is this project now fully funded, or where are we?
Yep, it is now fully funded. So as the report mentioned, the parking lot is done. This $400,000 matched with the $600,000 will pay for the restroom, the trailhead with the shelters and replacing the playground. We currently have the $500,000 from DGRI to do the mountain bike trails that are underway. And they're also, the West Michigan Mountain Bike Alliance is trying to raise additional funds to extend the mountain biking trail system from 6 miles to 8 miles. We're hoping that fundraising will be finished up this winter so they can just continue on in that spring. And we hope to have a big groundbreaking late summer next year to celebrate all phases of the project.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Thank you.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We are on to item G from the Administrator's Office, State of Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, Regional Community Collaborative Grant.
Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to accept and appropriate $75,000 from the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity to the Regional Community Collaborative Program in the FY 26 Special Projects Fund budget, and to authorize the Board Chair or designee to execute the grant agreement approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. Summary, in FY '26, the Administrator's Office received a $254,997 State of Michigan RCC grant, which included $179,997 to implement and expand upon the Welcome Plan goals serving refugees and immigrants in Kent and Ottawa counties, and $75,000 to support the Maximize Economic Potential Summit and staffing part of the RCC's Economic Development Plan. The Administrator's Office received an additional $75,000 RCC allocation for FY '26 to initiate the RCC Language Access Pilot to develop a system linking local language resources to state departments and services. The project pilot will fund contractual services to language service providers with an emphasis on in-person interpretation and translation into relevant regional languages as approved by the State Office of Global Michigan. The grant term is October 1, 25 through September 30, 26. Assistant Corporate Counsel has reviewed and approved the agreement.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Vice Chair McLeod. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Sparks. Any questions or comments on this item? Vice Chair McLeod.
Just one quick question. So I wondered how many, there wasn't any detail on the contractual service providers that we use for these services, and I just wondered how many service providers would these funds be supporting on average?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the question. So I am currently meeting with local language service providers and community-based organizations that have a language service arm so that we can develop this pilot in a way that would include essentially as many as are interested in being on that contract. So it would be, it's a pilot, so we're still working out like what does that look like for West Michigan. Other regions of the state are also doing this pilot. And so right now I'm in communication with about 6 different organizations, from language service providers to, again, some community-based organizations also have a language service arm. Okay. But it's not finalized yet who is opting in to participate. It'll be up to them.
And so is the goal of this pilot to expand language services across like more languages, or to like I just want to make sure I understand kind of what this.
Yeah, thanks. It's a little bit fuzzy. I had a lot of questions too when they presented it to us as the regional collaborative group. So essentially the goal is to create a pool of more in-person interpretation services for state services. So this would be for like Secretary of State offices, LARA, MDHHS would be like the highest kind of users, but it is specific to state services. So we would essentially be curating a directory specifically for in-person interpreters, and that's why they're reaching out region by region, because you have bigger language service providers that can do telephonic anywhere, right? But sometimes it's better to have an in-person interpreter, and that's why they want to connect with regions individually to tap into their network of freelance in-person interpreter services. So it could, again, that also would allow for more like targeted, like these are the languages that are more prevalent in West Michigan, and that's why they want to connect with our region specifically for those languages.
Yeah, I think that's great. I just hope that, you know, once these things are, if the pilot is successful, which I assume it would be, that they would provide funding to continue those services on, because, I mean, it seems like there's definitely a need for it if they're kind of putting these funds out there. So thank you.
I hope so too. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We are on to item H from the Administrator's Office, West Michigan Welcome Plan donations.
Action requested, recommend to the Board of Commissioners to accept and appropriate $75,000 in donations to the Kent County Welcome Plan budget in the FY '26 Special Projects Fund. Summary, the Welcome Plan was created with 36 partners to identify initiatives that welcome and support refugees and immigrants in community engagement, economic well-being, safety, education, and access to services. The continually expanding Welcome Plan Collaborative currently includes roughly 65 organizations. The Administrator's Office is expecting to receive $25,000 from the Kent Intermediate School District to help support welcome plan staffing. Additionally, we are expecting to receive $50,000 from the Lake Michigan Credit Union, $25,000 in the 2025 calendar year, and $25,000 in the 2026 calendar year to support welcome plan activities. The funds will be used to support expenses such as language services, community engagement, welcome plan collaborative work group, info sessions, or workshops, and other welcome plan activities.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner Oliver King, supported by Commissioner McLeod. Questions or comments on this item? Vice Chair McLeod.
Just a quick question. I wondered what impact this donation, and then there's some additional expected donations that are listed on the action request as well. Like how much of the budget for the welcome plan is this going to support?
Like a percentage of the annual
like
budget?
a percentage of what the budget specifically is for the welcome plan.
Yeah, I was just doing, I don't know how quick I can do math on the spot, but I was essentially with staffing, my projected budget, staffing and language access and community promotions, events, planning, things like that. My annual budget's around like $450,000. A big chunk of that is through the RCC grant. So $75,000 out of $450,000, math.
You don't have to do the math, that's fine.
Okay.
I just wanted to get a sense of it, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Thank you. Okay, see none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We are on to item I from the Administrator's Office, resolution of intent to create a property assessed clean energy program in Kent County.
Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to issue a resolution of intent to create a property-assessed clean energy program as allowed by Public Act 270 of 2010, and to set a public hearing regarding the program so that the public may be heard regarding the issue. Summary. Michigan's PACE program, authorized under Public Act 270 of 2010, provides counties with a financing tool to promote local economic development and environmental sustainability by enabling commercial, industrial, and agricultural property owners to finance projects designed to increase the energy efficiency of facilities, reducing costs for the operations and reducing the environmental impact of commercial activities. Importantly, the program is designed to be budget neutral for counties. There are no taxpayer funds involved and no new staff are required. Instead, counties establish a PACE Special Assessment District through a three-step legislative process, passing a resolution of intent, holding a public hearing, and adopting a resolution to establish the program. Once a district is established, eligible property owners work directly with private lenders and Lean and Green Michigan to develop and finance eligible projects. Payment is made directly to the private lenders, but the principal amount is secured through a special assessment which acts as a lien on the property and remains with the property even if it's sold. This structure reduces risk for private lenders and enables longer-term financing up to 25 years, hopefully resulting in savings through efficiencies created by the energy improvements for the property owner. Lean and Green Michigan is the entity authorized to facilitate PACE projects in Michigan. The support comes at no cost to the county, and I should mention I believe we have a Lean and Green representative in the audience this morning.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner Sparks, supported by Commissioner McLeod, or Vice Chair McLeod. Questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Stack.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of questions. I know that cities also have the ability to do this. In fact, there are 4 cities in Kent County already have PACE programs. Is it the same authorizing statute?
Yes.
Okay. And I raised this question a little bit with the administrator
Right.
before as to how an entity, and I know we don't have a lot of experience across the county yet with many projects, but how an entity would choose between our program and a city program if it's within a city jurisdiction.
And just to clarify, Grand Rapids, Wyoming, Kentwood, and Cascade Township are the other 4 governments in Kent County that have a program, and Ottawa County has one too. I don't see it as a competitive thing. We always defer to our local units. We wouldn't, this isn't a case where we're out there competing for anything, it's just a tool that's available. And in my mind, I guess it's very likely that it'd probably most be utilized by our potentially 31 other governments that wouldn't have this in place.
And then my follow-up question is, the funding comes from private sources. The project basically happens outside of the county under the county program. The county's role essentially is in the special assessment on the property, and if there's a default on that arrangement, what's the role the county plays in collecting that if there's a default?
Sure.
So I'm going to let Josh talk about this as well, but the role really for the county, it would be collection through the treasurer's office. However, the agreements that we plan on setting up would be, the normal method of payment would be directly to the lender rather than going through the treasurer's office.
They set up the plan, the interest rate, all of that happens outside of our purview, but the security is provided on a lien on the property. That's a tax lien on the property. And then again, the default comes back to us if the problem is there. We don't collect it, but we actually foreclose on the property if there's a default?
Well, it wouldn't necessarily be a foreclosure. I mean, we would collect on that through the special assessment on the property, through the property tax. It would get put on the property tax bill.
Right,
So
but
they would pay.
as with any others, if it does not get paid, ultimately the bad result at the end of the day is a foreclosure, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
So we do have some skin in the game in this process if things go south.
The end result would be, I mean, if you pushed it all the way through, the foreclosure process would really end with, assuming the county ended up owning that property, right? Then you would fall back on the kind of language in the assessments and the documents that would relinquish the obligation of the county to pay for that special assessment if through foreclosure it all came back to the county. And there's language that Lean and Green Michigan has provided to us to include in those agreements. Otherwise, the lien stays with the property, so an owner who purchases it through the foreclosure process would be responsible for that lien on the.
To pay off that lien then on the purchase.
That's correct.
Okay.
The special assessment. Yeah.
All right, well, I think it's a good idea. I mean, we've talked about this for years, trying to get this thing up and operating. I don't know that we've ever seen a project that went bad. And I've never heard of one going bad, but I suppose it's always possible.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We are on to item J from Human Resources, 2026 Management Pay Plan, Pay Range and Changes.
All right. Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approve management pay plan pay range and wage changes. Summary. Approximately 403 clerical, professional, and management positions are covered under the management pay plan pay structure. As authorized by the Board of Commissioners, the MPP administrative process provides for periodic review and adjustment of the pay structure for MPP positions. It is requested that the MPP pay structure and employee pay rates be increased by 2% effective January 5, 2026. It is also requested that any MPP staff not yet at the E step of their pay range progress to the next step in that range on the same date.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Vice Chair McLeod. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Oliver King. Questions or comments on this item? Vice Chair McLeod.
Just a quick question. What, is this the first year of this? Where are we?
Oh, let me add just a couple of things, Amy, and then you can fill in. So this is an annual thing that happens in November, December. The reason for that, I was asked that yesterday, and the first thing that came to mind was it's always been that way, which is an awful answer. So, but periodically, every 3, 4, or 5 years, we bring labor agreements to the board. Those typically happen around now, and a lot of things go into that, such as when our annual health plan costs are established. And but the MPP isn't in a labor bargaining unit. And so this is just one of many that comes to you in those years where you're approving contracts. We just kept it on the same cycle. So we could do it differently in the years where we aren't approving labor agreements, but we have simply kept this on the same cycle. But this, if this were a bargaining unit and they had a multiple year agreement, this would not come before you every year.
That makes sense. I always forget that this one is not a contracted agreement. And so does, I guess my final question would be, is this increase reflective of the increases that are coming into play for those that are under union contracts? Is it
Yeah.
similar?
Yeah, it's the same increase for all employees this year.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments on this item? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We are on to our final agenda item or our action item of today's agenda. Item K from Facilities Management, CIP transfer to the Fuller Campus Clinic modification project.
Action requested. Approve the transfer of $524,205.56 to the Fuller Campus Clinic Modification Capital Improvement Program, CIP, in the fiscal year 2026 CIP fund budget from various existing CIP projects. Summary. The Fuller Campus Clinic Modification CIP was established by the Board of Commissioners via Resolution 01272213 with $3.1 million in proceeds from the American Rescue Plan Act. Since then, an additional $800,000 was added to the Fuller Campus CIP from ARPA proceeds, and $400,000 was added to the Fuller Campus CIP from Health Department grant funding. Additional funding of $524,205.56 is needed in the Fuller Campus CIP to cover furniture, fixtures, and equipment not fully accounted for in the original project. I'm told because we were going to use some existing furniture and that didn't pan out well. And to cover several large change orders necessary to ensure the project meets the intended goals of improved compliance with HIPAA and better access to service for our customers in the public health clinics and the Environmental Health Department. It is requested that the additional funding be transferred to the Fuller Campus Clinic Modification CIP from existing CIPs as follows. And this means that these are completed projects that had a balance left over. $70,450.43 from the Human Services Parking Lot Replacement, $2,366.79 from the District Court AV System Upgrade, $60,000 from the Fuller Complex Storage Facility, $49,000 from the Human Services Chiller, $49,055.34 from the Boardroom Audio and Visual Equipment Replacement, $58,333 from the 82 Ionia FOC Chair Replacement, and $235,000 from Strategic Capital.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner Oliver King, supported by Commissioner Stack. Questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Stack.
Thank you, Chair. Just quickly, once this is approved, I assume it will be, what is in the strategic capital account once we pull $235,000 out?
Jeff, you have the current balance?
Approximately, Jeff, you know.
So I believe we approved the 5 million also coming out not too long ago, so we're trying to figure out what our final balance can be at the end of September. I believe we have enough to put an additional 5 in there. We're still working on those numbers, but I believe it's going to end the year 9/30 around 46-ish million, somewhere in that range.
So 235,000 isn't going to put us at risk.
It's a small amount, yeah.
And the rest of the funds are basically excess funds on projects already completed.
Yes, allocated funds by the board for specific projects that have been completed and have a balance.
And having an early tour of that facility, it's money well spent. It's a great facility. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We are on to miscellaneous. Is there any commissioner miscellaneous this morning? I think I've probably held you long enough this morning. So with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.